It made me cry.
This one's wife. Grief ghoul. Texas flood victim. Have a crepe. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. Certain narcissists love tragedy. They come crawling out of the woodwork, eager to feast on the emotions that are prevalent when tragedy strikes. When it does, there are two main reasons for why the narcissist becomes involved. The first is through character trait acquisition, whereby the narcissist utilizes the tragedy to believe that they are affected by it also. This is split into two further instances. The narcissist will either claim that they have been directly affected by the tragedy itself, for instance, claiming that in a bushfire their house has burnt down, or a property that belongs to them has burned down, and that they've been rendered homeless, that they will tell anybody who will listen about their sudden last-minute dash to safety as a consequence of escaping the raging firestorm. Or, what they will do is they will claim to be so badly affected by the plights of others that they're shocked, stunned, that they can't eat, they can't sleep because it's affected them so much. In both instances, the narcissist is leveraging the tragedy for their own purposes. They are acquiring the character trait of the tragedy by claiming that either they are a directly affected victim or a secondary affected victim, when it doesn't bother them in the slightest because they have no emotional empathy, in order to cause people to feel sympathetic towards them, thus demonstrating that they are under control, providing them with fuel, and in some instances it might also be done to obtain a residual benefit, often money. Accordingly, certain narcissists very much play the victim, hijacking the tragedy to make it seem as if they were directly affected by it or secondarily affected by it. Other narcissists utilize the tragedy as a means to demonstrate how caring they are. Rather than get involved quietly without any brouhaha or showcasing, the narcissist makes a big deal of exhibiting to anybody who will notice that they are involved in donation, volunteering, the relief work. They ensure, dependent upon how well known they are, that, for instance, news agencies are made aware of their disaster relief efforts, their charitable donations, the fact that they turned up at the front line. In both instances, the tragedy doesn't really matter to the narcissist, but the unaware narcissist believes that it does affect them, that they truly do care. In actual fact, their narcissism has seen a tragedy and essentially decided to leverage that tragedy for the pursuit of the prime aims. Unsurprisingly, we have seen this in the past with this one's wife. She turned up as the grief ghoul at the Uvalde mass shooting and also as a tragedy tourist at the LA wildfires earlier this year. I've explained in detail in separate videos her behaviours. Well, unsurprisingly, it would appear that she's at it again. And this time, it is the tragic floods that have struck Texas which have caught her eye, and her narcissism has cranked into action to try and extract the prime aims from it. What am I talking about? Well, it's with reference to something that was posted on X. It relates to a post by Queer Lips of Truth 2, who has posted many times about this one's wife, often with what appears to be inside information. Queer Lips of Truth 2 first started by posting, "Recall when this one's wife inserted herself into the Uvalde shooting? What we are hearing about Kerrville, Texas, is about to irritate your souls even worse." A teaser was issued, and then Queer Lips of Truth followed up with, "Update. I am reliably informed that at the outset of the disaster, World Central Kitchen informed FEMA and other agencies and talent agencies that they would be providing some aid and assistance in Kerrville, Texas. This one's wife and Archwell jumped at the opportunity, made a donation, and then briefed people about their efforts in a desperate attempt for some PR. Now, pausing there, unsurprisingly, the grief ghoul comes out of her coffin, sensing the tragedy is available for her to utilize it in some way. Remember, her narcissism makes her think that she cares, but because she is a narcissist, we know she does not. She has no emotional empathy. Her narcissism is attuned to use circumstances, events, people towards the prime aims. Accordingly, it recognizes that this tragedy could be used by her to assert control over an audience by seemingly being caring, by drawing fuel by way of their reactions. Oh, good on the Duchess of Sussex for donating, what a lovely woman. And to manage that facade, particularly so because she is desperate to be seen as a kind and empathic person, rather than the ridiculous clown narcissist that many people see her as. Accordingly, her narcissism, antennae twitching, seizes on the tragedy in Texas to motivate her to make a donation. She could have just left it there, but naturally she wouldn't. Her narcissism demands that the world knows about it, and therefore briefed people, the supine publication that ordinarily pumps out the PR puff pieces on behalf of this one's wife. Queer Lips of Truth 2 continues by explaining, here is where it gets interesting. This one's wife made it clear that she would be donating some as ever crepes to some of the affected families. Yeah, you read that right. If this is correct, this one's wife decided, oh, your home has been swept away. You might be mourning the loss of a family member or friend as a consequence of the death toll in this tragedy. You might not have access to any food, heat, warmth, shelter. But here, have a packet of my shitty anemic crepes. There. All will be well. Ordinarily, you would think to yourself, who on earth would do something so crass? But as you know, with the narcissist that is this one's wife, she has an inability to read the room as a consequence of lacking emotional empathy and because her narcissism isn't evolved enough to make good judgment calls, unlike certain other narcissists. The consequence is that once again, not only does she go racing after tragedy, grief ghoul that she is, seeking to leverage it for her own purposes, she then makes the crass act of suggesting, here, have some as ever crepes. Not only is this the last thing that would be of any use to you if you were a victim of this tragedy, but moreover, it demonstrates that she's seeking to promote her brand off the back of tragedy. If this is correct, what a despicable human being. Yet it is no surprise, because this is the behaviour of this publicity-seeking, fuel-seeking narcissist. Queer Lips of Truth continues by explaining to their credit, the editors at People thought such an announcement would be distasteful. I've tagged people on this post. If I'm lying, come at me. And Lord knows, I will post the screenshot of the email from this one's wife's talent agency to the rep at People Mag. Oh dear. Queer Lips of Truth seemed pretty confident that this actually happened. Appears to be referencing source material, an email from this one's wife's talent agency to the representative at People Mag. People ordinarily kisses the backside of this one's wife, but even they appear to have some moral scruples, drawing the line at publicising this one's wife's donating efforts in relation to this tragedy, particularly in respect of the ridiculous offer of those shitty as ever crepes. It's another low for this one's wife, but it's no surprise. and on the basis that Queer Lips of Truth 2 is accurate, and they seem pretty confident in what they've stated, this demonstrates once again the despicable nature of this one's wife, where nothing is off limits with regard to the pursuit of the prime aims. She hears tragedy, her narcissism goes opportunity. She hears disaster, the narcissism thinks goody gumdrops. Here is a chance for us to make her seem like she's a caring person. As you know, the most appropriate thing to do would be to donate quietly and not make a song and dance about it. But that's no good for this one's wife. Her narcissism will not allow her to do that. It's only worth doing if she can make it known, because by making it known, it allows her to assert control and draw fuel and manage her facade. That is the trade-off. Compare my analysis of Christian Bale, and if you haven't watched that, I'd encourage you to do so, whereby his philanthropic efforts largely go under the radar. He doesn't publicise them or draw attention to them. With this one's wife, she doesn't give a rat's ass about those affected by the Texas flooding. All her narcissism drives her to do is take advantage of it. She does think that she cares because the narcissism makes her believe that in order to motivate her to do these things. But because she's a narcissist, we know that she doesn't. Because she's a narcissist, we know she's self-serving. Because she's a narcissist, we know she's only doing it to get to the prime aims. And to add insult to injury, the victims have been offered an as-ever crepe by way of some kind of recompense and support in the face of overwhelming tragedy. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.